is up. So, today we will be speaking from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 45. So, before I begin, I want to ask everybody that if I say anything wrong or offend in any way, knowingly or unknowingly, that you please forgive me, that I'm hopefully able to convey the message that Srila Prabhupada intended in this purport. But before we begin, we'll start with the invocation prayers. We can just do it all together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Alright. So I'll say it and then you can repeat after me. Prayatna Yatamanastu Yogi Samshuddha Kilvisha Aneka Janma Samsiddhas Tato Yati Param Gatim Prayatna Yatamanastu Yogi Samshuddha Kilvisha Aneka Janma Samsiddhas Tato Yati Param Gatim. Does anybody want to give it a try? Can we get a mic so that we can hear everybody in the audience? Maybe 2 or 3, just so we can distribute it nicely. Prayatna
Yogi Samshuddha Kilvisha
Yogi Samshuddha Kilvisha
Aneka Janma Samsiddhas
Aneka Janma Samsiddhas
Tato Yati Param Gatim
Tato Yati Param Gatim Prayatna Yatamanastu Yogi Samshuddha Kilvisha Aneka Janma Samsiddhas tato yati param gatim.
Neeraj. Prayatnat yatamanastu
Prayatnayatmanastu
yogi samsuda kilpisha
yogi samshuddha kilvisha
aneka janma samsiddhas
aneka jana samsiddhas
tato yati param gatim
tato yati param gatim.
प्रयत्नाद्यतामानस्तु
Prayatnayatmanastu
योगी संसुधा किल्बिषा
yogi samshuddha kilvisha
अनेक जन्मा संसिद्धास्
aneka janma samsiddhas
ततो यति परम गतिम्
tato yati param gatim.
प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु
Prayatnayatmanastu
योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषा
yogi samshuddha kilvisha
अनेकजन्मसंसिद्धस्
aneka janma samsiddhas
ततो याति परं गतिम्
tato yati param gatim.
प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु
Prayatnayatmanastu
योगी संशुद्ध किल्बिषा
yogi samshuddha kilvisha
अनेक जन्म संसिद्धास्
aneka janma samsiddhas
ततो यति परं गतिम्
tato yati param gatim. Okay, we'll move on to translation. If anybody would like to read the translation and then give a summary of what they read.
Translation. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal.
So,
Okay. So if yogi means the person who is trying to achieve the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, he can make progress by doing sincere devotional service, and that way it will wash out all the contaminations from previous life, maybe by chanting. And that way, after doing devotional service, I think he can achieve perfection after many, many births of practice. So it means it takes many births to get to that situation where we can do the devotional service for the Lord and attain the Supreme Goal.
nice. Thank you. So, what I'm going to do, it's a very relatively short purport, so we're going to read through the purport and then we're going to go through all the points that I have. So, I split it into 2 slides so we can have one person read one slide and then one person read the other slide. Anybody?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contamination. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations.
Anything you got from this purport section?
So the first thing Mataji again, which I see again, I'll go from bottom to top, different approach. So it says, Krishna consciousness is not something, we can attain. Like, I wake up in the morning, I said, okay, let's do the chanting, and and I'll attain the Krishna consciousness or attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It basically comes with several lives, as we read in the translation, right? and we have to get free from all contaminations and material bonding. It's not just one day task. We have to do the practice for several years, and then we can achieve that perfection. And again, on the first part, right now it says again, if a person born in a particular sacred family, so again he gets some kind of basically based on his previous karma, he is at a different level, where he can start performing his activities, where he left in previous life, and then from there he, whatever task is left, he starts doing that with perfection, and gradually he cleans himself, his mind, material attachment, and basically the contamination, right? And then finally he attains the supreme goal, which is the Krishna consciousness.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so we got the second part. If nobody volunteers, I'm just gonna tell you to do it. So,
Do we have Mataji do it since we just have it so free?
Navya, do you want to do it? Or should we tell someone to G? Yes.
This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.28. Yesham ka antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te vanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dudavratam. After many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely free from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So in the first part, Prabhu said, right, whatever we do, Krishna conscious activities in this life, if we may not become perfect completely 100%. So in the next life, we will continue wherever we stop. From there, we pick up that things, activities in Krishna consciousness. So after many births, like performing pious activities, we can come to Krishna consciousness, and we can completely become free from all contaminations.
Very good. So I think you guys have kind of gotten some of the main topics from this verse, so we can talk about some of the topics. So one thing it talks about is process, and that process is the sincere endeavor by which a devotee does his practice. Then you have obstacles to this sincere endeavor, which could be the contaminations that Krishna spoke of. Then we have the goal. Krishna wasn't very explicit in the purport exactly what was the supreme goal, but I think many of you have gotten it. So what is that supreme goal?
To become Krishna conscious?
Yeah, that's one. Anybody else? Yes.
Going back to the Godhead,
Okay.
Lok Vrindavan.
Okay.
Devotional
Yes, Sanandri?
service, being free from all contamination.
Okay. You guys are getting there. Very close. Very close.
Devotional service?
Yes. So, if we look at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, text 20, those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. So, our kind of goal is to engage yourself completely in devotional service, making Krishna the supreme goal. So, I want to first talk about sincere endeavor, and that's going to be kind of the main part that I'm talking about. And in order to kind of break down sincere endeavor, we're going to do the 5 W's. Does anybody know what the 5 W's are? It's like an English terminology when you're growing
What,
up.
where,
What?
When, where, why, who?
What, why?
Oh, yeah. What? It's the root cause analysis. Why?
Yeah, like you guys have got it. Whom, what, where, why, all those. So they're kind of like a set of questions that can be used to gather information and gain a deeper understanding of a situation. So through these 5 questions, and I'm going to go by what, where, who, when, and why, hopefully we'll be able to determine more about sincere endeavor and the best way to practice sincere endeavor. So first we're going to start with what. So we're going to first break down the word sincere endeavor. And let's start first by like dictionary terms. So what does endeavor mean when you think of just general?
Attempt,
Yes?
like trying to do something.
Yeah. My sources tell me try hard to do or achieve something. So yeah, that's correct. So now for the harder one. What does sincere mean?
Sincere means you cannot one day you can do, second day I cannot do like that. Sincere means it's you have to do no matter it's any kind of dualities, you have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To perform an action without conditions.
Yes. So based on the dictionary, they say genuine or real, not false, fake, or pretend. Now, sincere endeavor, it's not just a spiritual thing. Sincere endeavor, you can sincerely endeavor for material things, but I want to go into what it is spiritually. So for that, I'm going to read a quote from a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote on what sincere endeavor is. So if anybody wants to read that quote, that would be good.
So far as your duty is the concern, you are doing your best. That is the spiritual qualification. The best qualification for a Vaishnava is to act sincerely and to this best capacity for the service of Krishna. Otherwise, Krishna is so great and we are so small. There is no questions of our giving any service to Krishna. But Krishna is so great and he is so greatly merciful that any small service we offer to him in devotions and sincerity, he will accept. Srila Prabhupada letter to Appender, June 24, 1969.
Thank you. So from Western quote, we can see endeavor is just doing your best. We're not perfect because we're, conditioned souls, conditioned living entities, but if you're doing your best in your service to Krishna, you're sincerely trying to do your best, then Krishna will accept any small service that we can take. So endeavor can be done pretty easily, but sincere endeavor is what may be a little bit difficult. So Srila Prabhupada, he said in the purport of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10, on the importance of sincerity, he says, if a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately to attain to him. So what does sincerity mean in the context of devotional service? Because we figured out sincerity generally, but what about sincerity in the context of devotional service? That's more like endeavor. Endeavor is doing your best, but how do you sincerely do your best?
Performing a service without expectation of getting anything.
Yeah, that's one way to think. It's kind of our motivation, right? So how should our motivation be behind our endeavor?
I want to do this for you, Krishna.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So it's not, we have to kind of shift from that I, me mindset to like a more Krishna or Guru mindset. So sincere endeavor is kind of both external, doing the work, but it's also internal. So we have to do the devotional service to the best of our ability, but we also have to develop the right mindset. Srila Prabhupada, he also says in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So to illustrate this, I thought we'd do a little example. For example, you've been asked to do the flower garland services. we all have different capacities, but we all can sincerely do our best. So I want to try to fill in this table on sincere endeavor, sincere without endeavor, not sincere with endeavor, or let's start with this one. Not sincere, no endeavor. What does that look like?
No garland.
Service doesn't get done. And you're like, why did you ask me? You know I only do garlands when it's a festival day and everybody can see the pretty garlands that I made. Why did you ask me to do it on a random Sunday? So it's not doing the service and not interested at all. Now let's do this one. Sincere endeavor. What does that kind of service look like? Yes?
It's the best garment of the world.
It might not be, but think on sincere and endeavor.
I guess thinking in the context of garlands, being able to like do the garlands but underneath instruction, because like especially whenever you start off doing garlands, you have to learn from somebody, and you can easily just go in there and start making the garlands however you want, but to do it while having the patience to listen to instruction, that's like, I feel like that's I don't know.
Yeah. So what I thought is doing the service the best you can to please Krishna and Guru. That should be our mentality. We're going to try this. We might need instruction, as you mentioned. That's a very good point. And we're doing this for the pleasure of Shri Chaitanya Thakur, Nataraja, and Srila Prabhupada. Now, what about this one? There is endeavor, but it's not sincere. What does that might look like?
Like you do the service, but it's like, oh, I want to just be done with it.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's multiple answers to these ones. None of these are like right or wrong. Any other?
You don't care about pleasing your guru. Like you want to do it the way you like to do the garland. Guru tells you to do something, but I don't care about it.
Yeah. So, doing the service so that people can see what a great job you did. Yes. And so you're like, oh yeah, did you know I did the garlands today? What do you think of the garlands? So, then, you might have some level of, yes, I'm doing it to please Krishna and Guru, but your main mindset is kind of like, oh no, I'm just doing it so that people can see how I did it. So duplicity, it kind of means it's the opposite of sincerity. It's doing it for multiple reasons, because sincerity kind of meant like pure, unadulterated. It's just the one mindset. So duplicity, you have multiple reasons you can be doing something. Now this one's a little more difficult. Sincere but no endeavor. Yes.
My guru told me to do this, but I'm too fallen to do this. I can't go out and preach. I can't go out and distribute books. I don't have what it takes.
We're making garlands.
I don't have what it takes to make garlands. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to try because I don't have what it takes. Someone better should do it.
Okay, that's a good one. There's multiple answers to this one especially. There's different ways that this can be done. Any other ideas?
You really want to do, but because you don't have that skill, but you don't put efforts to learn the skill.
I guess having this desire to do it, to make the garlands, but then I don't have time, and like you just like there are so many like other things that come up.
Excuse.
Yes.
Krishna is the time. That is cross out.
Yeah. So another way that you can think about this is you're doing the service for Krishna, but you're kind of doing it, it'll just get done. I'll just string some garlands on there. It'll just look fine, I guess. You're not really putting in that endeavor, trying your best. You're just doing it to get it done. But all of you were correct, so that's good. So the next question is, where? Where does sincere endeavor in Krishna consciousness take place? The heart, okay.
And mind.
Mind, okay.
In the service. It shows in the service.
Okay, yeah. I'll give you a hint, it's kind of a trick question.
Maybe it's the improve in the daily life.
Okay.
When no one watches us.
Okay. So it's kind of a trick question because we can sincerely endeavor really anywhere. That's kind of the beauty of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Obviously, you have the temple here. You can be engaged in different services when you ask to or you ask for a service. But you can also sincerely endeavor at home, like chanting your japa, making prasadam for the Lord there at your home. Or you can just go out on the streets, grab a couple of Srila Prabhupada's books, and try to distribute them with sincere endeavor. So you can even be at work but have that sincere mindset. Whatever material gains I get from work, I will use in the service of Krishna. Because Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to be engaged 24 hours a day in Krishna consciousness, which I know for me, that's not what I'm doing, but it's a goal that we should be trying to achieve. But if we limit our sincere endeavors to only this property here, we can't be in that 24 hours a day Krishna consciousness. So we have to think beyond service at the temple. We have to also be having that mindset at home and when we're out on the streets. So we have to make sure that we keep this in mind. So the next one I want to go to is who? So who should be endeavoring sincerely?
All of us.
Yes. You're right there. All of you. You, for example, you endeavored to make it here. It's raining, it's bad weather, you got a little bit of a hurricane coming, so you might be like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to come, it's raining, I need to prepare. But you still made the endeavor to come here. So now, some of you even sincerely endeavored to come here. You did it just to see the Lord or just to be engaged in service. And nobody is limited from making a sincere endeavor of Krishna consciousness because Srila Prabhupada said in the Purport of Nectar and Instruction, verse 5, in this Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement, sit with us, take prasad, and hear about Krishna. So, for example, Srila Prabhupada would take his American devotees to India. And a lot of people did not like Srila Prabhupada, initiating these American and European bodied people and allowing them to practice Krishna consciousness. But we've been reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita on our calls, and there's been multiple purports where Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that because the Westerners, these Americans and Europeans, they're sincerely endeavoring in Krishna consciousness, they're qualified, just because they're endeavoring. So I was reading like 10 or so, but I'll just give one example from C.C. Madhya Lila 16.186 purport. He says, sometimes envious people ask how Europeans and Americans in this Krishna consciousness movement can become brahmanas and perform sacrifices. They do not know that the Europeans and Americans have already been purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the proof. And also, we don't have to do Krishna consciousness sincerely endeavoring on our own. After all, this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This isn't the individual person for Krishna Consciousness or whatever. It's a society. If you're struggling with trying to sincerely endeavor, ask somebody, ask your friend. You can even ask me. I can only help so much, but I can sincerely endeavor to help you in your Krishna consciousness to the best of my ability. So it's not meant to be done alone, we're supposed to sing together, dance together, feast together. So we have to be together. So the next one I want to cover is where. Or not where, we did cover that, when. So, has anybody heard of Aesop fables? No? That doesn't sound familiar? Has anybody heard the story of the boy who cried wolf?
Yeah.
Tortoise and the hare?
Yeah.
So that's Aesop's fables. So kind of to illustrate this question of when, I wanted to tell one of those stories. So the purpose of Aesop fables is they're supposed to tell a specific moral lesson. So this is the story of the grasshopper and the ant. So one warm sunny day, the grasshopper was hopping through the fields. In some depictions he had a little violin, but it's a little unrealistic. But he was happy and he was singing a song. It was beautiful weather. I mean, look at this weather. It's fantastic. Better than what it is outside. But he was, happy and stuff. And he got tired, so he was like lying on a rock and he saw an ant pass by. And he's like, the ant was carrying an ear of corn to his nest. And the grasshopper's like, what are you doing? Look at this fantastic weather we're having. Why are you working? I mean, we should be enjoying the day. And the ant's like, well, winter's gonna come eventually and we need to store some stuff for this. And he's like, there's plenty of food. I can do that later. So he went back to laying in the sun on his rock, enjoying and singing a song. And the ant's just like, this guy. And he just went back to whatever he was doing. So the next day, it was again a beautiful sunny day. And the grasshopper, he went to this riverside. And he was like going from leaf to leaf. He was seeing all this nice, cool water. And he again saw the ant. And this time he had like a large leaf or something. And the grasshopper was like, hey, I remember you. Why are you working again? You worked yesterday already. You don't have to do this, Enjoy the beautiful river. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine. And then the ant's like, hey, winter's coming. You better be prepared. And the grasshopper's like, nah, I'm fine. So the ant returned to his work. So one day the grasshopper, he woke up and it looked like that. Do you see much greenery in this sort of place? So one day he woke up, he was ready to go, but the sun wasn't shining. In fact, it was very cold. Ground was frozen, covered with snow, and he's like, where's the food? And there was no food anywhere because, of course, it's winter. Nothing grows in the winter, especially when you have snow. I mean, we don't get snow here, so maybe you can grow things here, but in this particular scenario, it was snowing. So he walked for hours and hours trying to find some food. And then he passed by the ants. The ants were like all cozy in their little nests. They were enjoying their little corn and leaves, and they were singing and dancing, and he was looking through the window all sad. Like, oh man, I just wish I could have a leaf, anything. So it was then he understood, not all days are sunny. We have to be endeavoring. So the ant then noticed the grasshopper on the outside, and he was like, fine, come in, we'll help you out. And so the grasshopper, he was welcomed into the ant's home, and the ant's preparations kept the ant, his family, and the grasshopper warm and fed the whole winter long. So when is the time to sincerely endeavor?
When everything is going good.
When everything is going good, that's the time? Okay.
Other time we should not.
Okay. How about now? You never know what life has thrown at you. You can't predict the future. I mean, if you can, fantastic, but I can't. So if we delay our sincere endeavors until later in life, I got work, I got all this, I'll do it later. It might be too late. It's like investing in a savings account, right? They tell you invest early, invest early. If you start putting in your 20s, you'll get a bigger exponential growth than if you started like 40 or 50, you're gonna get much less money. So, sincere endeavor is trying your best. So at this moment, you might not have the capacity to do all these grandiose things, but do what you can, try your best, but do it now. And as long as you start now, Krishna will appreciate the endeavor. So hopefully I was able to convey that through the story. But the last one is, why? Why should we do more? Anybody want to read this quote from another letter for Srila Prabhupada?
Speaking to the mic.
Anyone following the order of Lord Chaitanya under the guidance of his bona fide representative can become a spiritual master, and I wish that in my absence all my disciples become the bona fide spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the whole world.
So we can kind of see from this quote that Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to endeavor to be leaders in society. He didn't want us to sit back and relax and do our little thing, but we'll just do that or whatever. He wanted us to become the leader, to spread this Krishna consciousness throughout the whole world. So there was one talk that Radhika Ruba gave once, and she was comparing complacency and comfort. And then you have, like, on one hand, comfort, you have chaos, which is like just too much. You don't want to be in comfort, you don't want to be in chaos. You want to be in that middle zone, that creative zone. So we should be taking the initiative to go just a little bit beyond our comfort zone each time. Maybe you sweep the floor every week, which is fantastic, you're doing a great job. But maybe just 1 week, just ask, hey, can you teach me how to mop the floor? Or you just, it doesn't have to be, big leap from sweeping to, cooking feast, it doesn't have to be that big of a jump, but, we should always be trying to do more so that we can all become leaders. We should all be taking the initiative. Srila Prabhupada, he took the initiative, following his spiritual master orders, to spread Krishna consciousness to the West. Imagine if he didn't take that initiative. So we all should be trying to achieve more, always trying to endeavor more. So briefly, I want to cover some of the other things that were talked about in the translation. So we talked about the sincere endeavor. Now let's talk about the washing of all contaminations. So these contaminations are kind of like obstacles on our sincere endeavor. So what is one of the main obstacles in our sincere endeavor and devotional service? And some of us who've been doing 10-minute calls, maybe think of a couple verses that we've been doing kind of recently. Maybe that will give you a little bit of a hint. I mean, there's many obstacles, but one. Yes?
Is it our senses?
Okay. Little more.
Wanting to engage in other activities like that serve more of ourselves rather than serving Krishna.
What are those other activities?
I guess material activities, or do you want like specifics?
Oh, no, not specific.
Okay.
Material activities. So, material attachments, yay! Everybody has them. I have them. It's something that we're all struggling with as conditioned souls. So, how do these become obstacles? So, I'm going to read a couple verses from Bhagavad Gita and that we've been covering in our 10-minute calls. So, we got 262. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. Then 263. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Now, you can do a whole class on these two verses. These are fantastic verses. But let's do just a little brief discussion on these. So the ideal, as I mentioned before, is to be Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. You should always be engaged in devotional service. Because then, if you're engaging in devotional service, you're not hungry for those material things. So how do these material attachments spiral out of control? So we've got the senses, which are, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. And then we got the objects of the senses, things we see, things we hear, etc. So let's go through an example. Ice cream. I'm sure everybody had ice cream pop into their head, favorite flavor, favorite toppings. I'm thinking of strawberry ice cream. So you start thinking about ice cream and your mind immediately becomes attached to the idea of having ice cream. If you don't like ice cream, it's some other sweet or savory. We all have a favorite food, right? So we all become attached to the idea of having that. So you can imagine how it looks, how it tastes, all that good sort of good stuff. So another word for lust is desire. So when you become attached to the idea of having ice cream, your mind is telling you to get the ice cream to fulfill that desire. Come on, you see it in the store. You wanted that earlier, remember? The mind is very good at telling you what you may not need to hear, but it will tell you anyways. So now, if anybody stops you from fulfilling that desire, you get angry, right? Or even if you do fulfill that desire, it may be not good for you. Like ice cream is kind of sugary, so it's not good for your health. So if you eat too much, you become angry at yourself for eating that much ice cream. And then we get into delusion from that anger, because anger is kind of like the catalyst for stuff spiraling out of control. So you make further wrong decisions because anger clouds your judgment, and then, then you may forget instances of these bad situations, bewilderment of memory, not knowing what's right and wrong, because we usually get angry more than once in our lives, right? And you'd think, we got angry once, we did this, okay, we're not going to do that again. But sometimes we get angry and we go through that same thing. And it's that bewilderment of memory when our anger clouds our judgment. And after bewilderment of memory, intelligence is lost. And after that, well, we're done for. Now that's in a little bit of an extreme example. Don't go and say, oh, no, I can't want ice cream anymore because I'm going to lose all my intelligence and all that. So it's kind of an extreme example, but material attachments have that little bit of danger to them. One time it can be fine, you eat ice cream, you're satisfied, you move on for that desire, but sometimes it doesn't happen like that. So, but if we shift from material to sincerely endeavoring with spiritual things, these contaminations are slowly washed away after many, many births, as it says in the purport. Now, segue to that part. Achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Now, from a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam, can you think of a story that might be relevant in the context? Think multiple births.
What?
Like a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Bharat Maharaj.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Bharat Maharaj. So, it's described in Canto 5, and there are a lot of things that you can get from the story of Bharat Maharaj. But, Bharat Maharaj was a king, and he did multiple sacrifices while he was king. He did all these sort of pious activities, and after some time, he went into the forest. And while he was in the forest doing his stuff in the forest, there was a deer that was pregnant, and it was being chased by, I think, a tiger. I could be wrong about that, though. And the baby is born, but the mother deer dies. So the Bharat Maharaj, taking compassion upon that deer, rescues the deer, and he starts to become attached to that deer. Now remember what we were just talking about, material attachment. So he's attached to that deer. Sometimes he would be doing his puja, he'd look over and the deer was right there, and he'd be like, oh, very nice deer, you're sitting so nicely. And he'd start thinking about the deer, like, oh no, what will happen when I'm gone? What will the deer do? He was so absorbed in thoughts of the deer that at the time of death, what was he thinking about? The deer. So there's verses in the Bhagavad Gita that says at the time of death, whatever one thinks about, that's what influences the next birth. So the next birth, he became a deer. But the Lord was merciful, and so in that thing, he remembered his previous birth. And he was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? I'm now a deer. So he's very eager to take birth again so that he could get back to devotional service. Deers don't live very long, so he lived out his deer life, and then he took a birth as a brahmana named Jadabharat. Now, because he remembered his previous past life, he was very conscious of avoiding bad association. So does anybody know what Jadabharat did to avoid that bad association? Yeah, he played deaf, dumb, blind, like a madman. He was like, oh yeah, that's crazy Jadabharat over there. His brothers were mistreating him because they thought he was so crazy. But he still had that intelligence, but he was just doing that externally, and internally he was performing devotional service within the heart. And this is the story, which I don't think I have time to cover, but he was teaching the king after he was carrying his palanquin. He was trying to sidestep to avoid some ants, and this was shaking the palanquin, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then there's a whole bunch of verses that kind of is the dialogue between Jedabart and the king. So there's, again, multiple things you can take from this story. Attachment is bad, But what can we take from this story in the specific context of sincere endeavor? There's a nice Bhagavad Gita verse that also kind of says this point.
There's no loss or gain in this endeavor, like.
Yes. So
there's no loss in this endeavor, no loss.
no gain. Then what's the point, huh? So there's no loss. Yes. So luckily for you, I have the slide right here. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Now, in the material endeavors, you can finish 99% of a project. And let's say I finish my report, it's 99%, I hand it to the client. The client's like, "Wait a second, you didn't finish this. I'm rejecting it. You have to finish it before I accept it." This is true, that I do this in my work a lot. They will go through and they will say, "You didn't do this per the contract, so therefore I reject it. You have to give me the completed copy." Now, in Krishna consciousness, that even though if you do 1% in Krishna consciousness, it's considered some success. Because if that's all you do in the one life, you go into your next life starting from 1%. So in the material world, whenever we get a new body, we go start learning the ABCs every single time. We start from zero, learn to talk, learn to walk, learn ABCs, learn mathematics, learn physics, all sorts of things. And then when we take a birth again, we have to start from that same point. But spiritually, we don't start from that beginning talk, walk, ABCs. We start from wherever we left off. The example that I learned when I was younger to kind of illustrate this is like a spiritual bank account. It's a bank account that you can deposit, but you cannot withdraw. So you always have that sort of same amount in that bank account. You're always depositing and never withdrawing. And then whenever you reach a certain amount, you're like, "Okay, I'm satisfied." Go up to spiritual world. So there's another example from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the story of Ajamil. And how, can anybody briefly tell me about how Ajamil kind of illustrated this point? Give me the mic.
Yeah. So Ajamil just chanted the name. So first Ajamil he saw the prostitute doing the stuff in the forest and he fell down. And then after that, at the time of his death, when he chanted the name of God once, and pretty much that's it. After that, Vishnu Dutas came and saved him from the thing, and he became serious in his devotional life, and then went to Haridwar, and then went back to Godhead.
Right. And he wasn't even calling out the name of Krishna. He was just calling out the name of his son, who happened to be named Ryan. But, Krishna saw that he had made some progress, even though it was early in his life. Shishirita Govindaraj ki jai. So again, he saw that he made some of that progress earlier in his life, and by the mercy of the Lord, he was able to still get that benefit. So with material work, you can make all the advancement you want, you can make all the money you want, get all the stuff that you want, but at the time, oh my gosh, that is not what I wanted to do. Okay, there we go. So you can do all the advancement that you want, but at the end of your life, you can't take your money, you can't take your car, you can't take your house with you to the next life. It's all gone. But with bhakti, you get to keep that advancement and keep the progress at the end of your life, as it said in the verse, after many, many births, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was saying, those who are born in pious or sacred families, they, how do I put it? They understand that they are meant to do Krishna consciousness, and they may seem more elevated. Like, we can see different examples of different devotees who, it seemed like from the very beginning of their life, was just totally engaged in Krishna consciousness, and that's that benefit that they had from many, many births of practice. So, you may be born in a pious family, and then you have ample opportunity to further your Krishna consciousness. So, hopefully my moving around the slides didn't spoil this. But we covered the 5 W's of sincere endeavor, right? But usually, there's another question that is included with the 5 W's. Does anybody know what it is? How. Very good. So, how? Now, we partially covered how to do it while talking about the who, what, when, where, whys. But I wanted to give everybody the opportunity ahead to sincerely endeavor. So, this is going to be kind of like a interactive session where you guys are going to talk. So, does anybody know what is coming up that has plenty of opportunity for sincere endeavor?
Japan information.
Louder? Louder? Yes. Does anybody hear what he said? Kartik, yes. So it starts, I believe on the calendar it says October 18th, and it goes till November 15th. And I'm sure we'll talk more about what Kartik is, the pastimes behind Kartik is, as the date gets closer. But during this month, we offer lamps to Damodar, we sing Damodar Astakam. Another thing that some devotees do is a Kartik Vrat. Now, Vrat kind of means vow. So during the month of Kartik, devotees usually promise to accomplish something during this month. It's usually daily, weekly, something. And can somebody read the translation of this verses from the Hari Bhakti Vilas? Yes.
Can I read the shloka first?
If you want, sure.
Na Hari.
You can go closer if you want.
Front.
Yes.
Nak Kartika Samo Maso Na Kritena Mam Yugam Navidas Adrasam Nad Hirtad Angagayas Samam Kartika Pravarto Maso Vaishnavam Priyahas Sadak Kartikam Skalam Yastu Bhaktyas Sevete Vaishnava. There is no other month equal to Kartika, and there is no yuga equal to Satya Yuga. There is no sculpture equal to the Vedas. There is no place of pilgrimage equal to the Gangas. Kartika is the chief of all months and is very dear to the Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna. Therefore, the Vaishnavas serve the Supreme Lord with great devotion in this month.
Thank you. So, another thing, I couldn't find the exact verse, but it said that every activity that you do in the month of Kartik is multiplied by 1,000. So, for example, if you chant 1 round during the month of Kartik, it's equal to the benefit of chanting 1,000 rounds. So that's why a lot of devotees endeavor to do something extra, sincerely endeavor just a little more during Kartik. And remember, I was talking earlier, we should all be trying to sincerely endeavor more in our Krishna consciousness. So, I thought to end the session, we could get in some little groups here and there and brainstorm some ideas for some Kartik Vrats that maybe you or just some ideas for some vows that you kind of accomplished during the month of Kartik, and then also talk about how to accomplish them. that could be, calling up a friend to do it together, or making sure you have a set time, stuff like that. So we can take 5 to 10 minutes to discuss between yourselves, and then I'll ask, volunteer, or maybe just ask you directly for some examples on how you plan to accomplish them. So I'll give an example for a start. So one of my Kartik Vrats for the past couple years has been reciting Shikshastakam every day. So that's 8 verses written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it helps to develop that kind of sincere mindset for our endeavors. So that's like one thing I do, and I usually do it in the morning before I go to work. So hopefully everybody is finally getting into little groups and discussing some Kartik Vrats. So I'll give everybody like 5-10 minutes, maybe till 6:20, if that's okay with everybody. All right.
One is the one day that mid of the Kartik, and in between the Kartik we are making some we are putting the whole night in this down we are dealing with the God shadow will be going there, and next day we are just dealing with the this is the following in the north area, but I don't know
but some days you will back out, or it's a late program and you can't, but then again you get
just don't put the link.
Yeah, most of the time we are following the fasting time, we follow the 25 days. But maybe 25 days the person is myself, and after that, how is that?
A round or two, and actually, the time of day is around, so what more is behind it, so you can.
And sometimes if the Kartik is also the following is the 1 month fasting exercise. The whole Kartik there, and some people the fasting is that they have to take a minute one day and spend a hand. And in our area, just only people observation with the fasting, only in the fruit. Not going to eat any food, just fruit and swimming also is the cold. Warm and just exercise and sugar and taking delicious. Just play. This time, yeah.
I mean, all these festivals come up, the Horobati Puja.
And also in the when we are not having some water, as guests, they are and also they're not uploading some makeup, some fragrance oil,
Mercy of the Lord. So we pray like the 17th, there are a lot of others very hard because Diwali comes, Govardhan Puja comes. There's some exceptions. I make an exception. When I come to the temple, and I meet a wall, I don't know, but I will have it because it's Krishna. So then I will have it because it's like a bliss or good for a but it's not like I'm going to my holy place because it's temple, I love food, I will take it. So since So how we can do less self-criticism and get more help from the Lord and do it back.
Yeah, I say it's also, it's not just chanting
And then ask you, when I get something which to be so, is there anything, because there might be some home programs, early wisdom programs, some of them are open, some of them are closed,
daily life, we are just putting some people in the day, and every day we run through this area, and always just chanting the word of the disease and most of the in our area to be starting with the cardboard start, and after that we are just starting some research like this,
over the morning and plus some sports, those people can do
Anyway, I don't want to say that. I'll drink more for you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Alright, I hope everybody had a nice, productive brainstorming session. Now, these Kartik Vrats don't have to be your Kartik Vrats. But, you know, it's good to get ideas out there. You might hear somebody who's like, oh, that's a good idea. It's something nice and simple I can do. So don't think, oh, I say it, I have to do it. I'm not going to be calling you up. But, hey, did you do your party front? It's 9 p.m. You got to chop chop. I'm not going to do that. If you want me to, I will, but... So, does anybody want to, first I'll ask for volunteers on ideas that people came up with? Yes?
I can do Pulsa Seva.
Microphone? Yeah.
I can do Tulsa Seva, Pulsa Seva, Tulsi Seva.
Oh, that's nice. So like every day or every
I
week?
chant 2 rounds every day.
Okay, that's nice. Good. Very nice.
And I'll bring gulab jamun to Krishna.
Very good. Now, how many? Because if there's a lot, we could share. So I'm just kidding. Only for Krishna. Any ideas that anybody else came up with? Yes, Mataji?
We can let daily ghee diya in front of Krishna and chant Damodar Ashtakam daily.
Yes, that's a good one. Very good. Yes, Prabhu.
I got so many ideas from Prabhuji. So, two things which I like is reading translation of Damodar Ashtakam with family every evening and like prayer with Damodar Ashtakam and with the tea lamp and try to memorize Damodar Ashtakam if possible. That is one entire weekend.
That's nice. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
So Mataji, our group right now, we made a couple of things. One is individual vows and one is group vows. How we can do. Again, so I'll go with group vows first. So what we
Not vows, ideas.
There's no, you don't have, I mean, if you really want to, you can, but ideas for now, and then once the time comes, you can make them.
As a group, we didn't make it.
So first, again, so okay, I'll go with individuals now. So light the lamp and singing the Damodar Ashtakam. So that, and along with that, spread the awareness with others. So devotees are good, but at the same time, explain the meaning to your family members so they know what they are doing. Simply just lighting the lamp may not help. Develop the attachment. So if you can make your kids understand the meaning and why we are doing chanting and encouraging others to chant, because that's again very pious month. So your chanting is good, that's helping you, but again at the same time if you can encourage others, that will also help. And then reading Bhagavad Gita, if possible read a chapter a day, if possible. Again that depends based on the timing of everyone, but again as a group we decided if you can do that would be great. And then if you are lighting the lamp at home, right, so bring new devotees, people who are not attached, so that they can also join this movement. And that's a nice month of time to encourage and inspire other people.
That's very good. It's always good to keep spreading Krishna consciousness instead of staying in our little bubbles. Yes, you too. I'd like to see what you two came up with.
So you could learn how to make flower gardens, like a different design every week.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
You could also, every week, is an idea, very unrealistic idea for me, but maybe go to Mongol Arti on Saturdays.
That's a good one.
I heard go to Mangala.
No, it's very unrealistic.
What is your idea? I didn't get it.
What do you mean on?
Every day?
No, it's every week.
4 times. So Saturday.
Just say it loud so we can hear it. Thank you.
Yes. Any other ideas? Yes, some Matajis now. We can have some ideas from the Mataji side.
It's my goal, especially whenever I'm observing in the fasting. So anyhow, I'll complete is 25 hours. So now I'm targeting is the more. So this is my
Nice. Thank you. Anybody else? Maybe some from the back. I've heard from up here. Any from the back that would like to share? Prabhu, back there.
One of the most important things is that chanting our wrongs mostly every day everybody does chant, supposed to be chanting their wrongs. So adding wrongs, if you're doing 16, maybe you could add a few more wrongs for Kartik for the whole month. If you can double that, it's all well and good. The more you chant, the more the better. So Kartik is a very auspicious month for these things. And one of the Prabhu also said that one Bhagavad Gita chapter a day, that's not difficult. You can do that. If you do the translation alone, it's okay. We in an online class is going on since the pandemic. And every day, morning 9 o'clock and evening 6 o'clock, we do 1 hour of studies, like, Prabhupada say, keep the iron hot. So in order for it to remain hot, you have to always have it in the fire. So that is devotional service. So Kartik month is very auspicious for anything you can add to your devotional service.
Marisha, thank you. Very important. And you mentioned a good point about doing it with others. So you guys don't have to do this alone. If you both have a similar idea, you can be like, okay, every day, 5 o'clock, we'll do that little thing, and then we're doing it together. You don't have to do it alone. Maybe I can get one more idea?
For our group, an idea that was proposed was, because your body, it needs to also be healthy in order to be able to do services. And something that Srila Prabhupada had talked about, Rukmini Mataji had mentioned that Srila Prabhupada had talked about in one of his letters, is how sweets are just like intoxicants. And we shouldn't really consume them so much. And so a Kartik Vrat would be having less sugar. And distributing them.
Yeah, and also somehow this is just I'm saying for myself, because we should try to complete our rounds before 7 o'clock. Just make a decision, I won't say no, because sometimes it doesn't happen. But then, if we can have not a very tight sleep early morning, and we can kind of get up at 4 o'clock. Actually, Prabhupada said very strongly that everybody should, all grihasthas should be up before 4 o'clock. So then at least the rounds are done, and then the extra rounds can be done later on, noon time or whatever. So I was thinking that our prescribed rounds for our Guru and Srila Prabhupada is doing the Brahmura time, then extra can be done. And sweets, I was saying that but definitely when we have festivals like Govardhan Puja, with so much of love and devotion devotees are preparing, it's not like we're going to say, oh, we won't have that. I mean, we have a nice hill of, halwa and sometimes rice. So we should take a little bit, because again, I'm going back to Prabhupada. Whenever anything was cooked, he would always honor prasadam, everything he honored, whatever was there. So we have to follow our acharyas. So, and reading is there, everybody mentioned, and offering diya. So diya can be offered, if possible, morning and evening. So Damodar Astakam can also be read morning, evening, but again, if it's not possible, then once a week. So how we can put it in the, our schedule.
All good ideas. Sweets one might be a little difficult for me. I like sweets too much, but maybe one year I will do that. That sounds like a good idea. So hopefully everybody has some great inspiration, and hope everybody's excited for the. Oh yes, sorry.
Give social media a rest for the month. Take that extra time that you spend on social media, maybe read a chapter a day or chant around. That's a lot of extra time to have.
Yeah. I mean, if everybody looks at their screen time, I know mine is not less than an hour. It's more than that, and there's a lot of wasted time on there. So that's a good point. So I hope everybody is excited for the upcoming month. And remember, we're sincerely endeavoring for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Shishini Tagore Nataraj. And I think it's about time for Gaur Artis. So if you did have any questions, I think after the program, you can come and ask me, just because I don't think we have time for questions at this moment. But yeah, again, please forgive me.
I want to mention one thing.
Sure.
In your class, wonderful class, really like your class, and you mentioned in the beginning about like how we can remember Krishna 24 hours. So the very quick short story, if there's a mother who has a keys of a locker around the house, so what she does is she ties the key. In India, sometimes used to tie the keys with sari, you know. So suppose she loses the key somewhere, and she gets up in the morning and she has many things to do. So what will happen is that lady will continuously make the breakfast. She will do, then she'll say, oh, I don't know where the keys are. And then she's looking for keys, remembering, remember under the dining table, is it the kitchen, is it the bathroom. So similarly, whatever activities we do, just like we have that Mataji lost the keys, we can remember Krishna 24 hours a day. So I just heard this from one of the devotees, how we can hear 24 hours, remember Krishna, just like a lady with a sari has lost the key. She's all the time worried. So do everything, but remember that to get the keys. So it's like remembering Krishna. So I just wanted to mention that. Because you mentioned about the 24 hours, and somehow I just heard the lecture yesterday. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I'll go.